Rutrow, the reboot not as well received as the original. Economy is currently good or excellent. Look at this. In April of 2017, it was 40%. Look at where we are in February of 2025, just half that level. 20%. My goodness.
Trump isn't exactly having the best week, it appears, after being left humiliated by Emmanuel Macron during a sit-down joint presser.
Will France support the U.S. being compensated?
I support the idea to have Ukraine first being compensated because they are the one to have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by these attacks. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total efforts, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear, we have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day, in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be loan at the end of the day, and Russia would have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me.
Mr. President,
they get their money back, we don't, and now we do. But you know, that's only fair.
Mr. President, should be the one that pays everybody back. Are they the aggressors?
Well, we're negotiating everything, and everything's on the table, and we'll see if we can get some land back, and we'll see about a lot of different things. And we're going to be making a little speech and say a few words in a little while. We're going to have another meeting, a luncheon meeting, and we'll see you in about 2 hours. Okay? Thank you very much, everyone.
This coming mere hours after the Philadelphia Eagles announced that they just wouldn't attend the White House to commemorate their Super Bowl victory. And now this new polling that looks as favorably on the current president as Elon's kids look upon him. All 29 of them, I think.
This 20% we have currently going on right now is fewer Americans saying the economy is excellent or good than at any point during Trump's first term. This is not a good sign, Kate Baldwin.
J.D. Vance said last week, you got to give them time, even though that's not what they promised in the campaign. They said they bring prices down day one. But what is the view of the future economy then?
Yeah, so this is the current economy. How about the future economy? Is the economy getting worse or better? And all I can say is yikes. Yikes. Again, compare it to where we were in the first term at this point, April of 2017, 53%. The majority said it was getting better. How about now in February of 2025? The majority say it's getting worse. 59% compared to just 35% who say it's getting better. Worse is higher now than at any point in Trump's first term pre-COVID. This number, to me, is much more worrisome. Perhaps the worst number I've seen for Trump on the economy, because it says even if the economy now isn't great, they also project that it's only going to get worse from here.
Yesterday, the president held a joint presser with French President Emmanuel Macron to discuss tensions involving Ukraine and Russia, which, of course, Trump did absolutely nothing to de-escalate. In fact, his bias couldn't have been more apparent as opposed to Macron and our allies.
President Trump, we have friendly and trustful discussion, but my experience with President Putin is the following. Number one, I always think it's good to have discussion with other leaders, and especially when you disagree. I stopped my discussion with President Putin after Bucha and the war crimes because I considered that we had nothing to get from him in the time. Now this is a chance. There is a big change because there is a new U.S. administration. So this is a new context. So there is good reason for President Trump to re-engage with President Putin. But my experience is the following, and I shared it with President Trump and the team. In 2014, our predecessors negotiated peace with President Putin. But because of the lack of guarantees, and especially security guarantees, President Putin violated this peace.
Trump blatantly refused to call Putin a dictator, something that he had no problem with when describing Zelensky recently. But, credit to Macron, he had no hesitation in declaring who was the aggressor and fact-checking Trump to his face.
One different than the other. You can take the proceeds from it. How can you not take
Because it's very different. You keep the assets, you take the proceeds because they are paralyzed in a certain way. You take the proceeds during the wartime, but you keep the assets, and it's part of the negotiation at the end of the war. Because, this war costed all of us a lot of money. And this is the responsibility of Russia, because the aggressor is Russia.
Should the U.S. be compensated?
So at the end of the day, this frozen asset should be part of the negotiation. All in all.
Will France support the U.S. being compensated?
I support the idea to have Ukraine first being compensated because they are the one to have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by this attack. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
If you call Zelensky a dictator, would you use the same words without including him?
I don't use those words lightly. I think that we're going to see how it all works out. Let's see what happens. I think we have a chance of a really good settlement between various countries. And, you know, you're talking about Europe and you're talking about Ukraine as part of that whole situation. The other side has a lot of support also. So let's see how it all works out. It might work out. Look, you can never make up lives. The one thing you can make up the money, but you can't make up the lives. A lot of lives lost. I think probably a lot more lives than people are talking about. It's been a rough war, but I think we're close to getting it solved.
Let me mention one of the very big lies that Trump said recently regarding the war in Ukraine. Earlier this week, the President said that Ukraine started the war. Trump said that Ukraine started the war. Really? That is, as I hope every member of the Senate knows, an absolute lie. Russia invaded Ukraine twice, first in 2014 and then again on February 24th, 2022. And on that date, February 24th, 2022, Putin's tanks and troops rolled into Ukraine. And on that day, Russian aircraft began bombing targets all over Ukraine. Russia started the war, period, end of discussion. Trump is lying.
And it appears Trump's affliction for dictators partnered with his lack of focus on the issues that he promised Americans he'd immediately rectify once in office, you know, that bringing down grocery thing that he said would happen so quickly and the stomach was speaking. Well, the American people are turning on him.
Yes, Hayes wants the government shrunk, but he doesn't see a coherent plan. And he doesn't trust Elon Musk, doesn't believe what he says, doesn't want Trump letting Musk poke around Social Security or tax files.
I don't know how many people he's fired. And, you know, Musk keeps saying, well, I found $1 billion of waste here. And Social Security, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that are collecting it that are between 100 years old and 150. Can you believe any of that crap? You can't substantiate it, but you can't believe it. So that's a trust issue.
Last week, a CNN poll noted a seismic shift in his favorability ratings. And this week, it appears Americans are feeling less confident about the state of the economy than ever before during both Trump administrations. And we know how Trump deals with such lack of confidence. He just denies it and passes the buck.
Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again.
Yeah. And inflation is back. I'm only here for 2.5 weeks.
That was January.
Inflation is back. No, think of it. Inflation's back. And they said, oh, Trump inflation. I had nothing to do with it.
But what James Carville is referring to is this huge drop in support for President Trump and for Elon Musk and what he's doing at Doge. So there were a bunch of polls that came out. CNN has 2-to-1. People are upset about Musk having such a prominent role in the government. Trump's approval rating is down 5 to 7 points across 4 of these big polls. He's underwater on managing the economy, which is obviously what handed him the presidency, 8 points underwater. And then in terms of how the public is feeling, not only reflected in those numbers, did you see those town halls that were going on last night? So Rich McCormick in Georgia, safe seat, people booing him, catcalling. They're concerned with everything from spending cuts to what's going on with Doge to that Donald Trump is becoming a tyrant. Cliff Bentz in Oregon, similar reaction. This guy, Tony Balderson, he's in a Trump plus 18 district in Ohio, saying Trump's executive orders are getting out of control. They are hearing from the American public that what is going on from the Oval Office to CPAC, which is, Pam Bondi being at CPAC seems like a politicization of the office, to say the least, is not what the American public wanted. They wanted someone to come in to get the economy back on track. That hasn't been happening. They wanted a different vision of getting rid of illegal immigrants. They wanted people who are actually convicted of crimes to be the ones getting kicked out, not just picking up anyone who speaks Spanish. So that's what Carville's saying, and I think it's good strategy.
But the thing is, he can't get away from this, and neither can his MAGA-loving colleagues. Across the country, Republican senators and lawmakers are being met with upfront pushback on their policy positions that do nothing to help combat the cost of living or any of the issues that they allegedly voted Trump to help deal with.
And you are doing us a disservice to set that down and not stand up for us. And
a lot of stuff will be litigated. Be litigating court. You don't think I'm going to stand up for you? Stand up. So if we're going to have a town hall, and I'm going to come and stand in front of you and take your questions and try to answer them as honestly as I can, then let's do that, okay? But if you're going to just yell at me, that's not going to be an effective town hall.
Ho, ho! Elon Musk has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Elon Musk has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Elon Musk has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
I know. Can you believe that the reality TV star billionaire besties with the world's richest man who spent $250 million to help elect said reality TV star, in turn further enriching himself to even more billions, would be more focused on culture wars, tax cuts for the wealthy, and pathetic proxy economic warfare to just inflate his own ego than the issues actually impacting Americans across the country.
Then explain how people are parading around these massive numbers, and the numbers are actually a lot smaller. And when what really matters in all of this, and the Democrats are hammering it, is that in the bill that the Republicans are putting forward, there will be $880 billion cut to Medicaid. And you see Republicans all over the country. And no, Jesse, these are not plants that are showing up at their town halls.
I never said that.
But you were
You're
thinking
about
that.
Okay, so I headed you off. They were actually people who worked at the CDC in Rich McCormick's district. But people are showing up in Oklahoma, in Arkansas, Pennsylvania, Missouri, Wisconsin, and they're saying what's going on at Doge is unacceptable. And are you kidding me with these Medicaid cuts?
Now you guys listen to the voters.
Trillions of dollars.
It's like the first time you listen to the voters, Jessica.
We are trying.
So is Jessica saying that we're not cutting enough? That's the argument?
I think what she's saying is that we should really just cut like maybe double it.
And I think it's important to remember who they are. In my district and across all these rural areas, it's farmers, it's ranchers, because they often don't earn enough or have access to private care, nursing home residents, kids with disabilities, moms who just had babies. My dear Lord, these are caregivers, veterans, and sometimes people working two jobs. They're your voters.
I mean, he can call it fake news all he wants, but it couldn't be more apparent that the walls are already closing in.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.